So, in reaction to Sunday's game, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that encouraged me based off of what I saw in that game, and a couple of things that have me a little bit concerned after watching that game. I'll start with some encouragement because I feel like, it's Monday. We all need some encouragement. Let's start with encouragement. This was the best that Nick Chubb's looked since coming back from his injury. And it wasn't because he was playing like a bad run defense or anything like that. Steelers are a pretty decent run defense. They're not like the most elite run defense in the NFL. It's not a lot of teams with like elite run defense right now, which really concerns me with how the Browns, which is why the Browns like run game and how it's looked really concerns me right now. But this clearly was his best game since coming back. It was a lot more consistent. He got four and a half a carry. He broke off a couple of long runs. There were points in this game where he kind of looked like Nick Chubb, was able to get those 7-8 yard runs at will. Still, definitely to me, looks like a player who needs an offseason. Like he needs an offseason program to get his weight where he wants to get his strength where he wants to. He certainly looks like he's coming back. Well, he's playing and getting used to playing football again. And if he can end this season healthy, get that full off season healthy, I think that will make a huge difference for how Nick Chubb will look next year, right? He's still under 30. He's not 30 yet. He's only 28. He's not going to turn 29 until this December. So he'll be 29 starting next year, still under 30. I think that I saw enough in this game to be relatively encouraged. And also, like, a lot of the stuff with Nick Chubb has been contact balance issues. Like, his contact balance has not been where it usually is. I think that has to do with his leg strength not being where he wants it to, right? Like, he kind of had to cut off his weight program at a certain point to kind of get back to cardio and all of that. So, I am more encouraged about Nick Chubb in this game coming out of it. Another player that I'm encouraged about is Jerry Jeudy, who had himself another pretty damn solid game. And now is only 10, 20, 30 yards away, less than 30 yards away from having a new career high in receiving yards, and he's 2 touchdowns away from having a new high in receiving touchdowns. And there's a number of reasons why this encourages me, right? Like Jerry Jeudy is about to also surpass his career high in receiving yards potentially in less games. He's only played 13 so far this year. He has 944. His career high year in 2022, he played 15 games and had 972 yards. So if he can get 30 yards next week, that will definitely put him in a different category as far as like where he's at right now in his career. So that's a really encouraging thing. Another thing that I find encouraging about Jerry Jeudy this year is the consistency of production, right? He has had how many 70 plus or 60 plus yard games so far this season? Yeah, one in Jacksonville, one in Las Vegas, and these are Deshaun Watson games. So 70 plus receiving yards was rare. One against Baltimore, one against the Chargers, one against the New Orleans Saints, one against the Pittsburgh Steelers, one against the Denver Broncos, one against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, we're talking about 8 games, over 60 receiving yards. So there's consistency there from Jerry Jeudy. He's consistently beating man. He's consistently beating zone. He seems like he's in a really, really good fit here in Cleveland. Is he going to be 50-50 ball guy? Is he going to do all of the number one receiver stuff that Amari Cooper used to do? No, but you expect Cedric Tillman to take care of some of that, right? Like it's not going to be 1-to-1. You're not going to replace everything that Amari Cooper did with just one person, but you're getting a lot out of Jerry Jeudy. That's getting more out of Elijah Moore as well. And then once Cedric Tillman comes back from this concussion, and hopefully next year you'll see them build off of that. I feel really good about this receiving room. I still wouldn't mind adding a receiver to this room, depending on how expensive Elijah Moore is. If you can get him back on a cheap deal, I'm talking about less than like $6 million APY for him, average per year, then I think that's probably pretty feasible for this team. But Jerry Jeudy, his success and him being under contract for an extended period of time, under the money that he would command in the market if he would have hit free agency this year. And keep in mind, like a lot of people, this does provide a positive counterpoint to the common argument about paying players, right? Because anytime a player gets paid and they disappoint a little bit, there's always going to be somebody willing to point out that, oh, he got that money, he got lazy, right? And the money makes him lazy, right? Which I don't tend to believe is true. I think players play hard when they get a contract because they probably want to get another contract, or because they just like playing football and they have a dedication to the craft. But anyways, Jerry Jeudy got that contract. Everybody's take was, oh, he's going to be lazy. You paid him already. You robbed yourself of the contract year. Well, you're getting a really good year out of Jerry Jeudy right now. It's not a contract year for him. You paid him. And I would argue part of the reason you're getting a really good year out of Jerry Jeudy is because you did pay him, because he doesn't have to worry about the contract, because he doesn't have that hanging over his head. See, paying your players actually has that effect on them more often than not, where it's like, hey, you got the extension? Cool. Now you don't got to worry about getting an extension for a couple of years. Now you don't have to worry about all the business stuff. You can just play football. You can just train for football. So that's something that has me encouraged about the Cleveland Browns. If you're looking for things that have me discouraged about the Cleveland Browns, it's going to start with the line of scrimmage. It's going to start with the offensive line. I am discouraged about that offensive line, and more emboldened in my take that we really just need to clean house in the middle of that offensive line. Center's going to be a difficult one to replace. I really think this depends on how you feel about Luke Whippler, right? Like, do you feel like Luke Whippler is a better fit? And rightfully so. I had some people point out in the comment section, which is interesting. Ethan Posick is not a small center. He's 6'5". He's like 320, at least on paper. He does not look like it on the field, but he's technically a big center. The problem with Ethan Posick is that he does not play big, right? Ethan Posick is a get out and go center. He likes to get out in space and move. That's what Ethan Posick does well. What he is not is a grab and go center, which is I can just be strong and powerful and move. Jason Kelce is a great example of this. Jason Kelce, what he did great was getting out of his block and moving people, right? Like, that's what he did. He was a people mover at the center position. He wasn't the biggest guy in the world, and I think that's more or less what you want to focus on, right? Size is important, but the mentality is even more important, right? You want to get guys who are people movers on that line of scrimmage. Maybe you sacrifice some finesse. Maybe that's the sacrifice this team is willing to make going forward. But less guys who can move on skates, more guys who can box, right? Physical offensive linemen. Because what I saw Landon Roberts do to Ethan Posick, which is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Oh, my God. We're going to see that. Like, Hard Knocks is tomorrow. I best believe we will see in a couple of weeks Mike Tomlin on the little spinny pad that fast forward and rewinds the film. He going to be on there, fast forward, rewinding that whole Landon Roberts hit. Talking about that's what we want to do to him. That's how we take care of our turf. All that Mike Tomlin stuff that he be talking. But it's going to be a fun segment when that shit hits Hard Knocks. Because that was a hard knock, but an unacceptable knock. Okay, a unacceptable knock for you to take. Yeah, man, we need to have a different mentality in the interior of that offensive line. We need to be a lot more physical in the interior of that offensive line if we're going to run the ball how the Browns want. Like that fourth down, that 4th-and-1 play call. Look at the line of scrimmage on that play. Couldn't do nothing. Couldn't do nothing on that 4th-and-1 play call. Whether you tossed it left, tossed it right, went up the middle, you couldn't do nothing, man. We get no push on the line of scrimmage. We move nobody on that line of scrimmage. We are not physical on the line of scrimmage. And let's keep it a buck. Even when this offensive line was operating at its peak in 2020, short yardage was a pain in the ass for this team. Even though we had Nick Chubb, even though we had Kareem Hunt, because again, we weren't built for short yardage. We're built for chunk plays. Like if you look at where the Browns are as far as like negative yards, they're always high in negative yard runs because they're built for these chunk plays, not built for the 3-4 yard runs. If you're going to build a system, whether it's Jameis Winston or it's for a quarterback that you draft in the future, because you have made the determination already that you need an elite quarterback to win in the AFC. That's the determination we have made when we traded for Deshaun Watson, that like above average to average quarterback is not good enough to win a Super Bowl in the AFC. And I think that's the right determination. So you're eventually going to have to throw the ball 35, 40 times a game. Well, if you're going to have to do that, your run game does not need to create a ton of explosives. Your run game needs to get 5 yards. Right? 5 yards on first down. And you could do that better with a more physical offensive line that can win in short yardage situations. The mentality of that interior of that offensive line needs to. The fact that Ethan Posick got pushed like that and nobody fought nothing, we didn't get no personal, like the only personal foul that we got or excessive roughness penalty we got was like Jermaine Ifedi randomly fighting some guy at an unrelated point of the game. Like, how does a Landon Roberts do that to your homeboy and you don't do nothing? We don't start no circle. We don't start no barking. Maybe I'm being toxic, but I don't know. I feel like if somebody spikes my center up in the air, I'm gonna need the guard to get up in there and let them know that, hey, bro, enough. Like, that's enough, right? Like, nah, we need to have a little bit more of a physical mentality in the interior of that offense. I'm not calling Joe Bitonio soft because he's not. I'm not calling Wyatt Teller soft because he's not. But these players' strengths are in their ability to move and then make contact. I'm saying you need to get guys who their strength, their skill set, their bag is in their ability to be physical. That's it. That's all. That's the only point. I'm not saying you got to go out and get Trevor Pennick and get an asshole who fights all the time. Not saying that. But I am saying you need to have a more physical mindset on that line of scrimmage because it's starting to kick your ass. It really is, right? Another thing that I have a concern about after this game. What the Browns plan going to be a quarterback for the next couple of years? Like, seriously, we're going to have a sobering conversation about what the realities are for what the Browns plan at quarterback's going to be. Because I can already see it right now. It hits different, them interceptions Jameis be throwing, right, when you got the lead. It hits different, them interceptions Jameis be throwing when you lose to Pittsburgh. And this is the thing I caution with Jameis. Again, I don't underrate what Jameis is able to bring to the table. But I also am not going to be prone to overrating what Jameis brings to the table or getting carried away with it. I feel like I have a good idea of where Jameis is and what he's not. And I think a lot of people want him to be something he's not. And what he's not is a franchise quarterback. What he's not is a undiscovered gem. What Jameis Winston is inconsistent. He'll be consistently inconsistent for the rest of his career. And what he can do is throw the ball in the intermediate part of the field with more trust, more willingness than any other backup quarterback you could find. But there's a reason nobody has had the bright idea to start Jameis Winston in a very long time. And that is because the reality of Jameis Winston is he's going to throw interceptions. You don't know when those interceptions are going to come, but he's going to throw interceptions. And the nature of those interceptions are just too random to be able to build anything with real expectations off of. So if you're the Browns, Jameis Winston is still an option to bring back next year. But you do have to ask yourself, hey, is it worth sacrificing some overall production if we can get somebody who's going to turn the ball over less? Now, who's that guy going to be? Like I made my point in the video that I released maybe earlier today, or maybe it gets released later. But one of the main points in this video is, hey, I don't want the Browns to make panic decisions. I don't want them to go out and try to spend $40 million on like Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers or something like that, or give up like a 3rd round pick or in a 1st round pick for somebody or something crazy like that, right? Like, so what was the plan there, right? Is it Sam Darnold? Is it taking a chance on Justin Fields? Is it having Jameis Winston back, but also having Jacoby Brissett behind him? So if the Jameis thing gets crazy, you can bring in the relief pitcher. I don't mind that idea. It's not crazy. It's not a crazy idea, right? But you got to have some kind of plan at the quarterback position. And I really hope they're evaluating every option they have on the table and not just going with what's convenient or what feels like the most radical move they could do. Like, I really hope that they come up with something reasonable, maybe a little creative, but, I wouldn't mind if you have more than one guy you felt comfortable starting next year, right? Again, I said at the end of my video, recapping the game, as long as it ain't Deshaun Watson, I feel like people are going to be okay with it. Like, people might complain because they really love Jameis if you don't bring Jameis back. But at the end of the day, as long as you ain't telling us you running Deshaun Watson out there again, I think most people will be like, all right, well, we understand. But those are the things that encouraged me and discouraged me about this game. Let me know what yours are in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.